watch this for fun. So, for those of you joining us on the recording, let's just introduce the executive board. Okay. Does anybody have any questions before I entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda? Before I entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thanks. I have had a request from one of our reports if she could go first, directly after the community announcements. If the other folks giving reports are okay with that. Excellent. So, and let's go first. Thank you. As soon as we're done with community announcements. Is there any objection to approving the consent agenda, which is the minutes from the last meeting we held, which was December, and the agenda for this current meeting as amended? Hearing none. Let's do community announcements. So if you have a community announcement, something awesome happening in our community that you want to know, let folks know about, community engagement opportunity, happenings, etc., please raise your hand. I will call upon you. And if you can keep it to about 2 minutes, that would be most helpful. Irene, I see your hands.
These are productions at the Anchorage Community Theater from East 17th Avenue. It's been around for, I think, 70 years. It's awesome. This play, I just saw Unnecessary Farce. Kind of play on words, unnecessary force. Well, we have started the show here tonight, so I would like to introduce the cop, Emily, over here. She plays our play, which runs till what, end of February 21st. February 21st. And the other one that's coming up is a historical play by a local about first female aviator in Alaska, Anchorage people in Alaska people know how important aviation is for our world. It's called Marvel. Her name is Marvel. You might have heard about it. That was coming up, and they're also looking for people that are lesbians, free, lighting, sound, makeup, there a little bit. So it's not sure. Pretty sure I'm playing in one.
Irene, where is that playing and when?
Well, these are a lot for Anchorage Community Theater, called ACT. So if you go to the ACT to see the ACT, then you will go there. And I think tickets are about $20 each, and there are people snacks.
And when?
It's really good. I think it's a Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights. The start of the show.
So they're Thursday, Friday, Saturday evening, and then Sunday matinee.
Yeah. They're both highlight films. And I think
just Unnecessary Farce through the 21st, and then Marvel opens
March through March 20th. So they're usually on for about a month or two.
Yeah.
But I come here. So drama.
See Lindsay, and I'm sorry, I forgot your name. Rebecca. Okay, Lindsay, Rebecca, and Clara.
All right, I'll put hi everyone, I'm Lindsay. And if you really care about walking, biking, and sidewalk, the trail, we have a committee that meets. It's our community council. We call it our Spenard Plan Task Force, and we'll be meeting on Monday night next week. So, if the topics we're going to talk about later today, but if you're interested, please let me know, and I can get you the information. Can't make it Monday, okay, you can stay in the loop and then participate in future meetings. A few topics we're going to discuss this coming week include a comment period that's open right now for England, which is including a funding program for the city. So really important to get the right project in there. And then another project I wanted to bring forward, and we've got friends in Turnagain to help us out. The Anchorage Park Foundation has some funding through the Beyond the Beige grant, the mayor's office, to update the mural at Fish Creek Park. It's a park, of course, along the Fish Creek trail, and it's an awesome park in Turnagain, and we're a neighbor, and so we just got, Kathy and I met earlier today with Park Fund. What do we want to do here? How do we want to dream it up, and how do we want to move it forward? So I'd love it if anybody's really excited or interested in that and wants to participate and like bring the information back to Spenard let me know as well. So committee meeting and mural. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Rebecca. I work for Solstice Alaska and I'm here for the Fish Creek Trail Connection Project. We are forming and inviting our participants working group to convene to get representation and input on some cord installations and some interpretive signage along the trail. The commitment will look like 4 meetings starting around beginning of March. TBD still on those dates, and they'll be spaced about 2 to 4 weeks apart. And we're looking for 3 representatives from the Spenard Community Council to give feedback. And I sent a letter and what that working group role will look like. And if you could maybe post that on the website. And I also have a couple copies of a description of what this meeting and what we're looking for in representation. Yeah.
And when is the first meeting, or is that
The
TBD?
first meeting, we are still figuring out everyone's availability on the project team, but we're aiming for the first week of March, and we're hopefully we'll have that tied down in the next week.
All right. Thank you. And then
Who's website that we will look?
It'll be on Spenard Community Council website.
I will send that after this meeting. Okay, thanks.
Hi, my name's Karen. I hope this is okay to share because it's actually something outside of town, but it affects people here. Anybody who recreates in the Cooper Landing area. We are part of the game management unit there, and there are trap setbacks that are part of Fish and Game. Fish and Game meets every 3 years to talk about different resolutions. This year, we have an opportunity to get trap setbacks. The Acreage Fish and Game Advisory Committee has approved them, and so folks in Cooper Landing are hoping to get it too. There's a lot of crossover between Acreage and Cooper Landing. So if anybody's interested in that, comments are due the 6th of March, and you can see me after the meeting, and I'll get you information on that.
Okay, I see Hope online and then Jason.
Hi, everybody. I'm Hope Finkelstein, and I'm here at the meeting because I wanted to know if anybody was interested in joining a neighborhood ice watch. There are groups gathering in neighborhoods all around the city. Unfortunately, we have had multiple neighbors being abducted. So it's not a happy announcement, like parks and other things, but the organizing folks are going to community councils and really trying to work our neighbors and in our neighborhood. And since I'm a Spenardian, I wanted to come to this council. So if you are interested in helping out with the Ice Watch, and what that entails is we do get just looking out, making sure, seeing if you see anything, you can report it to an online group, and then people actually go out to the site and hopefully intervene.
Email in the chat for folks who are interested? Or is there a better way to, if people are interested, to text you back?
Yeah, you
Sorry,
can.
yes, sorry, Hope, are you willing to put your email in the chat?
Okay, I'll put my email in the chat, and you can get in touch with me. Thanks a lot.
Jason.
Thank you. My name's Jason. Sorry, hello neighbors. I just wanted to throw my hat for the open letter. Shoot, I saw it out there. I have a lot of governance experience in nonprofits and governing bodies, and what would be rather big experience to.
All right, thank you so much. So what that means is if you are eligible to vote on the ballot, you can write in Jason Lessard in that open auditor spot.
Yes, spell Jason's last name. Lessard. Thanks, Jason.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who has a community announcement? Kathy Gleason.
Thank you, Ms. Chair, for another hour.
Well, you have 2 minutes. Oh. was right.
County Police, I was serving as president. And for those of you who've been around a while, you know that we have sponsored collaborative creative councils from West Vancouver County for quite a few years now. And you did this forum almost every time. And they always seem to be well done. I think there's good feedback from candidates as well as attendees. So we know we have our municipal April 7th elections coming up. So I wanted to touch base with Spenard to see if you officially want to be a co-sponsor of the event again this year. And if so, then we've got a three out organizing the committee together and start planning. And I'll be asking Stan Lake Community Council as well as Top Angle next week as well. So Turkey has already said an official yes, so I'll bring the floor back to you and see what you guys want to do.
Can you tell me what being an official sponsor means?
What
What would you need from Spenard?
dollars start out with policy and just to
It's like, oh, really? That's more than I remember.
learn later on. But it's just a great way to work towards something and give exposure to what's going to be on the ballot. So organizing the thing is going to get that. It's busy right away with contacting candidates, trying to figure out days that don't conflict with each other. That's the hardest thing, any day for the event. Once we do that, and then we'll contact the candidates, then we'll just start on publicity and all that stuff. But right up front, we need to make sure that you is reasonable. No, they talk to everybody who may have conflicts or not.
I can say that in the past, when I have worked, the financial contribution has been approximately $75, give or take, like between $70 and $100, with an average of about 75. So what we can do is, are there any objections to Spenard being an official sponsor?
I didn't hear what the event was.
Oh, it's the West Anchorage Candidates Forum for the municipal election coming up in April, and so usually third-ish week of March. There's a forum.
Chair, and so we have District 3, 2 candidates running, and then we have 2 school board positions open, and so between those, if they can all make it, we'll have 2 assembly reps and 5 school board candidates that will attend.
I think I've asked this before, but would there be appetite to add Midtown district as well? Some of us live on this other side of Minnesota, in Midtown, on my district, and very little, so just throwing it out there.
I mean, the last one we had here was packed to the gills. So I think if we had more districts in, we'd have to get a bigger space. But I definitely think we should support it because it's a very good event.
Are there any objections to us being an official co-host?
So,
Okay, well, I hear no objections really, so we don't even have to make an official motion. We will be an official co-sponsor. If I could get your email so I can put it in the chat for anybody who is interested in assisting, participating.
Yeah, so now would be a good time to volunteer and work with all the staff to serve on the one have representation from each town. Yes, for sponsors. So
Excellent. Well, thank you, Kathy. All right.
Don't give anybody for instance, nobody said yes. Somebody else.
Okay, thank you so much, Kathy. I will make sure that anybody who is interested in participating, you can come to me. I've got Kathy's email address.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kathy. You too, thanks. Lieutenant Fuchs, we arranged slightly, so if you're okay, your next after school board member. Welcome.
Thank you all so much. I have to pick up a kiddo at a certain time, otherwise they get really upset at me. So I appreciate this. Okay, so I have an announcement. I guess I'm serving the West High School area and community councils. The West High School Theater is putting on another production at Little Shop of Horrors. It will be like the Valentine's Day weekend, so I think that's 2 more weeks from now. So you can buy your tickets through the West High, just Google it. They always do a great job with their shows, so that's a fun announcement. Folks who have kiddos in the system, the ASD lottery system is open right now until mid-March. I don't have my computer. I don't remember the date. It's mid-March-ish that it ends. There is a website, probably along the lines of asdk12.org/lottery. But you can get more information on that. But if you are interested in enrolling your child in any school or program outside of that which you're zoned for, immersion, open optional, just the school on the other side of the street, because it works better for your family. That lottery process is how you engage with all of our choices. And about 34% of our families in Anchorage utilize the lottery system and go to a school outside of the one they're zoned for. We've had some ice and snow. So again, families, my understanding is that we have exceeded our 2 calendar limits. There is a makeup day on April 17th. Right now, it had been a non-instructional day. So it's going to pivot to be, it's like a Friday. It will pivot to be a makeup day. And I haven't heard an official announcement, but when I count these things, I think now the last day of school will be adjusted from Wednesday, May 20th to Thursday, May 21st. So just keep your ears out and we're all going to think really good weather thoughts together. Thanks to the conversations at the assembly level, I don't want to steal some of Raleigh's thunder, but the assembly did pass a levy, a special one-time levy that will go to the voters in April. So should voters approve that levy, the district would be able to utilize $11.8 million to the equivalent of 80 teacher positions, give or take a couple. 80, to help with the budget crisis that we are going through. So basically that 11.8 million, when the legislature adjusted the base student allocation, it raised the upper limit of the amount the municipality could contribute, but it happened late enough that this allows us to play a little bit of a catch up. So just from a procedural standpoint, the Anchorage School Board has actually not had a chance to really have a conversation about the levy. I serve as our finance chair, and when we have our next finance committee meeting, one of my objectives will be to draft an amendment that is very specific and granularly says X amount of teachers, or it's a little bit complicated because charter schools would get a portion of that, and our CFO shared with that. We just need the details. We need to have a conversation, and I am looking forward to helping draft some kind of language, which would then be adopted when we adopt our budget later this month, so that voters in April will know, okay, this is really what I'm voting on. And that was I think that's an important thing, that voters will know exactly what they're voting for. So I don't have that yet, but it's coming. Thank you for making good eye contact. February is a busy month. We've been in the papers. We have about a $90 million structural deficit. So our meeting last night was officially, the proposed budget from the administration to close that gap was presented to the board yesterday. The document went public 72 hours before. So that was our first chance to have a conversation. It was a non-action item. We have an upcoming finance committee meeting on the 12th at 12:30 at the Ed Center on Northern Lights. We'll talk about it then. Our second regularly scheduled meeting is going to be the 17th of February. We will be accepting testimony on the budget. Board members are being asked to submit their amendments at that point in time, prior to that meeting, so that the public can comment on potential amendments that board members bring. And Board President Carl Jacobs shared last night that he will be calling a special meeting on Tuesday, the 24th, a week after our normal second meeting, to essentially allow us to listen to the public during as long as we need on the 17th. Have time to digest that feedback because nobody should be making $600 million decisions at 11:50 p.m. before a midnight deadline. So we will listen to the public, we will consider all of your input, and then come back in a special meeting a week later at the end of the month. So maybe I'll just at a very high level talk a little bit about the budget, and then I'll leave a couple minutes for questions. We understand we're here because of inflationary drivers and long-standing flat funding despite historic change to the base student application a couple of months ago. At a broad level, the budget is being proposed 5% is going towards district-wide administration, 14% goes to operations and maintenance. 23% would go to student supports. That includes librarians, security, principals, behavior support, counselors, nurses, so on and so forth. So like sort of people that make the schools function. That's about 23%. And then 58% goes towards direct instruction. Those are your teachers. Those are your so again, about 5% to district-wide administration. The cuts proposed are, as a parent, as a board member, as a community member, they are awful. There's nothing positive about them. They include teachers that we are losing due to projected enrollment declines. So that's part of the equation. About 168 teachers for increasing class sizes through this metric we call the pupil-teacher ratio. If you hear an acronym PTR, that's what it is, pupil-teacher ratio. We are losing elementary specialists, so health teachers, PE teachers, music teachers, so on and so forth. At the middle school level, they're losing teachers due to enrollment and the PTR increase. They have since Carol Cuomo was the superintendent, my understanding, they have an additional period in their day for professional collaboration. So teachers from math and science and social studies can collaborate and create lesson plans and talk about students. That costs extra stuff. We need staff to make that happen. So that's being pulled away. Principals, counselors, library assistants, those are the changes at the school level that people are seeing a lot of. Sorry, I'm going through this really quickly. Middle school sports and activities are cut. High school sports and activities are selectively being eliminated or sustained or continuing to be outsourced. So I don't know if you want the good, the bad, or the ugly. Continuing will be football and flag football, cross-country running, boys and girls basketball, debate, track and field, cheerleading, JNYO, which I think is the June, I don't know what thank you. And drill team. Anything else is on the elimination list. They essentially funded things that were lower costs to continue to operate. Boys hockey is $1,800. It was right there. Right, I'm gonna stop. There is a really good website, asdk12.org/F as in Frank, Y fiscal year 27. It is a hub with materials on it already. As the board has meetings, new resources will be added. So that's going to be your go-to place to follow along. I got like a minute for questions to be respectful of everyone's time. And
Yeah, no. Does anybody have any questions?
Just to that address the web address of someplace or
I will write it down and
Yes.
yeah.
Just gonna write it down and I'll put it in the chat.
Perfect. Thank you.
I just had a
Yes.
comment. It's just really sad to hear about all these extracurricular activities being cut. That's kind of what keeps kids from ending up on the streets or going out partying, doing drugs, or being an athlete and just doing something healthy. It's really sad. It's awesome. Honest.
It is. So again, this is a proposed budget, right? The board hasn't approved it. There have not been amendments. The legislature could take action. Anything could happen. So just know that things are dynamic. I think we all care about strong schools at the end of the day. So how do we get there? So thank you for your support. Thank you for your time.
And if you're curious, when Carol Cuomo was superintendent, it's when I was in high school. And there wasn't internet when I was in high school, so it was a long time ago. I will put this in the chat while we hear from Lieutenant Fuchs. You're up. Welcome.
Hello. I'm gonna sit, is that okay? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like it's more community based that way.
Not really loud, or we can hear you,
Alright, I promise.
like a teacher loud.
That's a good visual there. So my name's Brian Fuchs. I'm a lieutenant with the Anchorage Police Department. I'm a crime suppression commander, so thank you for having me here tonight. It's always great to come over and see folks in the Spenard area. I'm just gonna go over a couple things that I think are worth highlighting, kind of what we're doing with the Anchorage Police Department, some updates on various things, and then I'll take questions if anybody has anything. Talk a little bit about some operations that were publicized over the holiday month. We did quite a bit of retail theft enforcement operations within the community. Those operations were presence patrol, so extra police officers actually showing up at large retail centers, malls, different exterior malls, interior malls, and walking those malls, communicating and talking with shop owners, doing enforcement actions when necessary. So we did that through the month of December, a little bit after. We also did what we call retail blitzes, which are sort of a kinetic branch of action where we actually go to stores and we partner with their loss prevention teams, and we put officers in the stores with their loss prevention teams, and we catch people that are actually in the act of stealing, and we take them into custody at that point in time, and then we arrest them. We did 10 stores over the month of December. Those stores ranged from Fred Meyer's to Target to Kohl's to Home Depot, and they were located all over the city. Those locations were based off of intelligence that we had from the stores, based on their theft and what they call shrink, so their loss of product, monthly loss of product. So we went in and we did some deterrence. We arrested roughly, I think we arrested a little over 48 people in those operations, which was actually quite low for us. Normally we arrest in operations at that magnitude, we're in the hundreds. So we were actively working 5 to 6 hours on each store. That data is still under interpretation. You could say it's a good thing, you could say it's potentially a bad thing, but we're taking a look at it. We also had and stood up a retail theft unit within the Anchorage Police Department. That unit is part of the patrol division, and they are officers that take the time to actually process every single report that comes in from our retail theft partners in the city of Anchorage to determine if they can establish probable cause. I think you all have heard the chief and the assembly talk about technology and the push that we as a city or as a police department are pushing to get more technology. This is a direct result of that technology push where we have the capabilities now to talk with the stores at different levels and get information without actually sending a police officer out to the store to take a report. The officers can help the LPs kind of focus their efforts to gather the correct information and provide to us. And then we can establish proper cause with the evidence that they provide. And then we apply for a warrant that individual's arrest for that theft if we can identify that person. That operation has done very well the last couple of months. I think just in the month of December, they did about 100 different arrests / warrants. So that was a very successful operation. And that unit is still continuing to operate. That hasn't stopped. So that's a unit that we are probably going to keep stood up for quite some time, just based on the great results we got. Staffing, we are currently in the middle of our field training for one academy. We had graduated an academy Let's Go. They're currently in their field training operations process. We have a full academy in the academy currently, and we're looking really good for this next academy. We have quite a bit of applications. We're seeing an increase in our applications to our academy staff, and so that's a very positive sign that people are energized with re-engaging with the profession. So that's super awesome. It does create a little bit of lull for us, right? When you have so many people in a training status, because if they're in a training status, that means that somebody's training them. So we have to ensure that we continue to provide the level of service that you all demand of us, but then also provide the type of training that you demand of us for our officers to be the world-class officers that they are. So we're continue to do that. Um, we continue to cut some current operations. Last night, the assembly passed Title 8, which is a revised, kind of updated version that Member Brawley can kind of talk about a little bit because there were some amendments that were presented that went outside of my scope when we were developing the changes. But what that in general is going to do for everyone is to give the police the opportunity to enforce some additional laws for some nuisance crimes. So those are lower level crimes that occur in public spaces when it comes to unacceptable behavior, whether that's menacing or threatening in a public space, having sex in public, or different types of interactions with individuals who may be intoxicated in a public area, where in the past we didn't have a lot of authority to make those arrests, especially with intoxication. And this will give us some capability to arrest some folks in those public spaces for intoxication when it's appropriate. And part of that is that there's kind of a rider on that. So it's not that we're just going to go and arrest people because they're drunk. We're going to go in, and really the law kind of revolves around if we go in and we try to provide some level of service to them and say, you're intoxicated, you could be a danger to yourself, you could be a danger to others. We need to take you someplace safe. And that those places can range from a friend's house, parent's house, their own house, or even the safety center. And if they refuse, then they could be subject to a potential criminal offense if they don't want to be transported out of the area. So that's Title 8. That's good for us. It's exciting. It's going to allow us to do some good things to affect change in people's behaviors in some of these public places. And that's a direct reflection of the feedback that we've got from the community at large about some of the challenges that they face when they're outside and in their public spaces. So we heard you and we took action, and we'll continue to take action as we get that feedback from you all. We're working pretty hard, and this is something that I don't know if anybody really is aware of. We work pretty intensely with code enforcement here in the city of Anchorage. So problem residents do exist, abandoned houses, so properties that go unoccupied for some time in a particular neighborhood, and that can be sometimes taken over by folks, squatters and things of that. And so we partner with code enforcement because in the city, if your house doesn't have power, water, electricity, it's not deemed habitable. So we partner with those folks to go in and make sure that those buildings are clear. And then what we do is they'll go back and they'll seal those buildings up so that people can't go in. And it's a big safety issue. And then it creates a kind of a safe haven for nefarious activity within a neighborhood. And that's something that we are able to partner with our municipality partners, different departments, to ensure that they're safe and the neighborhood doesn't feel that pressure. We continue to do outreach within the community. Our Hope team is still active in working with other nonprofits and other folks within the municipality. We work hand in hand with the health department, who provide 2 doctors to go out with folks that are unsheltered. We work with Beans Cafe. We work with Third Ave Navigation Center, Catholic Social Services, RRNS services. So a large group of individuals that are really focused on doing outreach to folks in the community that are suffering from homelessness, trying to provide them with the opportunity to break that cycle. We have applied for and we received a grant just recently from the state of Alaska, the state of Alaska opioid settlement type of system that they have going on there. And that grant in itself is going to provide us, the Anchorage Police Department, with a substance use and abuse counselor on a full-time basis to deploy with our outreach team and put people in treatment right off the street if they want to go. It's going to be significantly impactful. I think we're the first department in the state to do something like this, and we want to make sure we're delivering those services to those people when they're needed the most. That's all I have for an update. Any questions?
Yes. See Jed, and what's your name there? Okay, Jed, Don, Jason.
Thank you, Lieutenant Hughes. Appreciate hearing about some of your efforts on loss prevention and all the different things. But one thing that I didn't hear is about traffic enforcement. And for the second day in a row today, I read a story in the news about a hit and run, one fatality, and now someone who's suffering critical life-threatening injuries. Can you talk about how the department is prioritizing traffic enforcement? Because I'm on the streets every day, walking, I see cars egregiously violent traffic.
So we do have a traffic unit. It's a unit that's completely dedicated to traffic enforcement here within the city. And that unit is actively working and ensuring like high traffic areas like that have a significant amount of people that will run red lights. And we know those areas pretty well, and they'll post up there. They do a lot of traffic enforcement on the Glen Highway when needed. So those units are out and about. They also are a major crime scene investigation for traffic fatality collisions. And we also are very tied into the traffic camera network system. Now, we don't have any systems in place to like issue tickets or determine, ticket type of behavior based on the observations of the technology. We're not quite there yet. I don't know if we'll ever actually get there, but we don't do that currently. But we can use that information from those cameras in those type of scenarios to identify suspects and then take them into custody if we feel there's a crime or if they've committed a egregious infraction. And so we do that work regularly. That unit it's throughout the week and into the weekends, and that's our dedicated team. The other piece of that is our patrol officers when they're not going to a call for service, which I will tell you is very rare. But when they aren't, they are encouraged to do traffic enforcement in each shift. So we have 3 shifts across the 24-hour period. Each shift will generally, sometimes they do their own kind of task force to do some heavy enforcement. So they may focus on traffic one day, they may focus on a problem area or a resident another day, and you know what I mean? So they do some of those things, and they are trying to do traffic stops when they can. Did that answer your question?
Could be done with Jason, so we have launch on the side of it, but I can get his contact information and get additional questions.
My question is, what are you doing with ICE? Are y'all partnering with them to the people out in the community and stuff like that? I've observed a ICE raid down there about 2 weeks ago, and nobody says anything about it. So I'm just curious: are you associated with them, or are you helping them, or are they paying?
Yeah, so we are not, we do not go out and enforce federal law with our federal law enforcement and partners on a consistent basis. We do have individuals called task force officers that are assigned to our federal partners, so FBI, DEA, and airport security, our airport police. We work over there with the DEA. We're not actively engaged in any ICE operations within the community. So they're just a federal partner like the FBI and the DEA, and we're not actively engaged in doing immigration enforcement. That's a federal job, not a local law enforcement job.
Did I see a police officer go in behind the ICE guys?
Probably not.
I'm sure.
I'm quite sure.
But just that.
Oh, thanks for coming and giving the update. Really appreciate it. A question on I appreciate the work you guys do on retail crimes. And I'm wondering, it's really only sort of a corporate level organization that can host an operation like that. Are you guys seeing impacts on smaller businesses Because folks are going where there isn't a presence where it might be easier to be in. Businesses that can't handle the loss.
Yeah, it's a great question. Thank you, Forrest. So I'll be as brief as I can. So what we do is the reason why we focus on the larger corporations, the bigger ones, is that they're generally highly targeted. And we have a very specific infrastructure and kind of working agreement with those facilities. They have capabilities that unfortunately our smaller mom and pop shops don't really have. But what we do know is that some of the very prolific theft suspects in town that are stealing everywhere, right? We generally pick those folks up going into a larger box store. What we do is when the smaller stores are able to make a report online, that report goes into queue. And when we take somebody into custody for a crime, let's say they steal at Target, we'll do a criminal background check on them and we'll see that they've been associated with other calls and other reports by other retailers. And what we can do is look at those reports and we can charge that individual if we have the evidence to support it, which we normally do. And that can actually lead to a higher level of criminal charge than just the initial and misdemeanor crime. And we are partnering with all of our retail partners, no matter how big, how small. It's just the more kinetic operations like the retail blitzes, they're not really adapted for smaller communities. But we do see the effects down to the smaller stores.
We've got to move on to our next person because we're a little behind on our agenda, but thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
And I'll make sure that we get your contact information. Thank you. Agenda. Hannah, you're now. Vice Chair Raleigh.
Okay, hello everyone. I'll keep it brief because basically my report was already given, but I'll say very briefly on the tax levy. Yeah, I think Kelly, board member Lessons explained it really well. Explained it really well. But I think at this point it's in the hands of voters now. So I think you'll see more information about it. What she said is real, that we still have a huge deficit, that those local dollars can't fill. And there's a state statute that says we can only do so much. So it's up to voters to say, do you want to add a little bit to your property tax bill to do that? And so I personally support it and co-sponsored bringing it forward. But I also understand, getting into my next topic, people are feeling the pinch with property taxes. And so I know there's been questions about assessments. I don't know if in your area, a lot of folks are feeling that way, but certainly, you know, around the district, they are. So a couple of things on assessments. One is we know this is a process we do every year. It is not a political process. I don't go in there and say, oh, I like that person, I don't like that person. And none of us change the assessments there. It's really a process that is done by staff. And there's essentially a computer program that helps do a mass assessment across the whole city. But obviously, that's just one step in the process. And so after that happens, is when folks who think their assessment is wrong, maybe it's too high. Usually people don't call if it's too low, but you can. If what you think is an error, maybe looks like you made improvements and you didn't, or whatever it is, contact staff, and that is still true this year. There were a few changes made to the methodology, really trying to put us actually in line with the way that most other cities in the United States do it. We were very bespoke. We had very little tiny areas that would be manually adjusted, which is very time consuming for staff and could result in arbitrary decisions, right? So there was a true up there and a couple other pieces. We had a work session on this if you want to deep dive. But also what happened is we know in some areas anyway, property values on paper have gone way up. And we know already that our home values have been increasing in the market. Market is not the same as assessed value, but obviously they are related. And so the consequence of our rising home prices are to some degree that it's catching up in our assessments, but also really looking at how we compare a house to its neighbors, right? Like, it might look the same on paper, maybe it's different. Neighborhoods can look very similar or maybe look very different, but are treated similarly in the system. So there's a lot of pieces like that. The bottom line is, if you feel your assessment is incorrect, you need to call the Treasury Department. I believe the number is 907-343-6500. And it's the same process that we use every year, but there's a couple additions to it. So for The deadline right now, which again is set in state statute, there's a lot of things that we don't have control over because it's in state law. There's a 30-day appeal period, which means that you call staff, or if you cannot resolve it that way, you have the right to do a formal appeal, which goes to the Board of Equalization. It's a whole process. And so the deadline to apply for that is next Wednesday, a week from today, February 11th. However, we know there's more people calling than normal in a typical year. And some folks have not gotten a call back because the staff are trying to work through their call stack as best they can. Obviously, we don't have a full-time call center. And so they are really working to respond to folks. But we do have an opportunity in state law. So we exercised it last night, Tuesday, which is to say, if you called staff and you have not gotten an answer by the 11th, that gives you an opportunity to have an extended period for your appeal. So it's a technicality of state law. You have to have certain reasons to do that if there's a hardship. And so because of, again, the kind of volume of calls, the level of concern, and because we know there's been some errors, at least in individual assessments, still figuring that out. And so there's an extra appeal. So I would say if you have questions, please call before the 11th of February, before next week, whether or not you pursue a formal appeal. It's in your interest. And also you can really talk through with staff when you get to talk to someone on the phone. They can explain and they can look at it with you. So I know a lot of folks often get issues resolved without having to do a formal appeal, but there's a process for that. So that's something to really highlight and make sure that you are paying attention to if you would like to engage in that process. I covered the tax levy. I think Lieutenant Fuchs covered the law changes pretty well. I think one of the amendments that he was referring to is, when we had this discussion, and of course it's in the air right now, it's already come up in this meeting, is where law enforcement, whatever that looks like, interfaces with our constitutional rights. And so some of the amendments that were put into those changes around public nuisance crimes, and then kind of how those are handled, also says, for example, if you are being noisy and disruptive and you're not harming somebody, and you are exercising your First Amendment rights, and you get charged with a crime, there is a defense that you can say, and it's very clearly in our code, that you were exercising your First Amendment rights. So there's kind of these relief valves, or just being clear about when these laws would apply. So anyway, there's a lot more I can say there. Trying to think what other things to share. I think actually at this point I want to stop and just see if there's questions, because there's literally so much going on in the city. If there's things that you want to know about or things that you're curious about or concerned about.
What's your name?
Oh, Kim.
Kim.
What do you know about snow plowing and snow removal in Spenard?
So I would say we have been making changes to the system overall. Generally, I've heard good feedback on that. However, we know we had a big snow dump and then it all started to melt and turn into ice. And so that's frustrating. And so if you have a specific area, I would say there's a Muni maintenance hotline.
Right.
I would call there. Or you can email me and Cameron Presbyterian, or I think live in my area. This area has half the assembly, but yeah, so contact us. We can kind of escalate that. But otherwise, I would reach out to staff. And there's also a website now that shows kind of where they're planning to be moved. There's GPS locators on the plows, which is great, so you can actually see in real time. So there's some tools there.
Actually, I have had amazing service from 311.
Oh, great.
And I just have to give a shout out to them because I live on a street, not a fancy street, but it's a very vertical street, and we get people stuck on that street all the time. I called 4 minutes before they closed. Somebody answered 1 minute before they closed at 4:30, and my street was gravel before 6 o'clock.
Oh, wow. Nice. So yeah, call 311. Good recommendation.
I can also say that they also love to take thank you for being awesome phone calls. So
Yeah,
yeah,
as you can imagine them.
yeah.
I don't know if this is an assembly issue, but what Jen was talking about, the woman was in a hit and run. She killed a man and then covered it up and then hid evidence, and she got 20 months in jail and 4 years probation. And that's crazy. If you kill somebody with a stick, you go to jail for life. So the fact that it was an automobile, that law needs to be changed.
Yeah.
And we need strong enforcement. If you kill somebody with a car or maim them or cripple them, there needs to be a punishment for it.
Yeah, no, it's a fair point. And as you probably know, we have one court system and the muni has certain laws on the books that are misdemeanors, anything that's a felony. And I'm not sure where this fell, in terms of severity on paper. But felonies are state issues, but I agree. I think there's a huge issue. And I'm not familiar with the bill, but Representative Kopp actually has a bill related to hit and runs. And I think it is increasing penalties for that. So I would look into that. Again, I can't speak for what the bill does, but that would change state law for those reasons, I think.
Okay, any additional questions? Okay.
So, Lieutenant Hooks, excuse me, Save My Library. So I don't think he gets it on a lot of different levels. He's fine with, certain things. I'll skip that discussion. So I applaud you very much for having an adult discussion about the budget and the issues that are facing the city, and they are yours and they will grow. But you also have another thing that's coming, and that's the state. And so Australia Mary Poppins, I think you know what I'm talking about. She sort of spilled the beans on the forecast at the state level. And it's basically within 2 years, they will have to implement a state tax, or excuse me, a sales tax, because of what's happening. And so that is going to be competing with whatever interests are happening on the community level. And I guess the question is, how is this going to work? Because clearly, if they cut you off in the past, then it's going to be that much more hard for you to get something where you need to be able to fund the city. And so, people will be voting on something, and then if it does pass, then they'll say, I already passed the sales tax, but that's going to the state, that's not going to you. And so,
Yes,
how are we going to approach this issue? And I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
Oh, yeah.
If you don't want to have discussions on it, but it's coming. And I'm just basically saying that they said, essentially, you will get an $800 dividend this year, possibly a little bit more because it's an election year. But if they do that, then they will have to pass the sales tax, obviously, the following year, and then there will be no dividend because while the principal is protected, the money that's coming out of the principal is going.
Well, I want to give Vice Chair Bradley an opportunity to respond to your question.
Yeah, I would say in terms of kind of the state's fiscal plan, what the governor's proposed, what legislators are going to do, those are great questions for legislators. I do know one of the representatives for this area, Carolyn Hall, is having an event, I think next Saturday, not this one. And I know they come back periodically. So I would say if you want to have that discussion with those folks who are going to be in those decision rooms, I would definitely do that. But Jamie, you are correct that there is a sales tax proposal out there that is not ours, that would be applied to everybody in the state. And there is some discussion of local, I don't know if it's revenue sharing or what pass through, whatever it is. Given how things go with the state versus Anchorage historically, I don't have a lot of confidence that we're going to have a lot of say over what happens. And it is really a question of it's the same dollars, so who should have control over deciding it. That said, we do have massive fiscal issues at the state level too, right? So it's not that the state is something separate from us, and the schools are where those things very much intersect because we are limited in what we can pay. Just as one example. So I don't know, I can't predict what happens with the fiscal plan. We know it's a governor's election year. We know it's a legislator's election year for most of them or a lot of them. And my question for the governor's plan is really what is his actual top priorities within that? Because I suspect that a sales tax is a lot lower on the priorities than cutting the corporate income tax, right? And so I think if you look at it as a negotiating menu, again, I'm not in his head, but if you look at it as a menu, you can imagine there's some things that he's going to say he wants to have or needs to have, and then the other things are maybe not ones that are going to stay on the table for very long. So I wouldn't rest on that, but I do think it's a real issue, and I think it just comes back to the discussion about the way things are now, the way that we are structured, the processes, and a lot of things about the way that we are set up need to change. It doesn't mean that they need to get torn down or completely changed, but we cannot keep going on the path that we are on without expecting that things get worse. And so I think it's just a call to action to all of us to keep showing up for that conversation and then be just aware that we're going to have to make a lot of decisions really soon. And that hopefully we can make ones in our own interest and not have things done to us.
Thank you so much for about time. Okay. So, and, Maya from Representative Hall's office put the information for the constituent copy, which is News One on February 14th at 2-Mountain Roasters.
Yeah. And whoever your reps are, I know they're gonna do town hall, so just keep an eye out and make sure to show up, and those are great questions, and I'm not in those rooms, so. Yeah,
Thank you so much.
yeah, thank you.
Lex. You're up next.
I'm hoping it's okay if I just stand here.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm very fidgety. You can be wherever you need to.
Okay, that's sweet. If you don't believe, my name is Lex Silverton and I do comms for the airport. I'm going to go over some of our February community updates and then I'm going to pass it off to our engineering and environmental manager, Kevin, who's also calling with me tonight. Yeah, so first off, TSA has implemented 2 new technologies at the international airport. That's pre-check touchless ID. So this is a technology where when you're at the airport and you're going through pre-check, it will basically scan your face, compare that to your passport photo, and it will let you through if you're verified in seconds. And so it's basically a way to streamline your way through TSA. And so that's now available at the airport when you go through pre-check through security. The other thing is Confirm ID is now effective at the airport. That basically means when you're coming through the checkpoint at ANC, you have the option to pay a $45 fee if you don't have an acceptable form of identification, what TSA considers an acceptable form. So like a real ID, a passport, tribal ID, there's some other forms of IDs, but if you don't have one and you want to be vetted through to go through TSA, you'll have to pay a $45 fee to get through TSA. So those are the 2 new things to keep in mind for TSA at the airport. The next big thing is our Part 150 noise study. And so we have 2 meeting dates coming up for this. So if you guys don't know, the Part 150 noise study is a noise compatibility study. And so it evaluates aircraft noise around the airport and land use compatibility. And so we're about halfway through the process of doing the Part 150 noise study. And so we have 2 big meetings coming up. We have a study advisory committee meeting, and as well as a public open house meeting, and those are both on February 19th. One is from 10 to 12, and the others from 5 to 7. And both of the events are going to be at the Coast Inn on February 19th. The best way to go and see any updates with Part 150 noise study, though, is to go to the website that we have with our consultant. That's ANC Part 150 noise, or if you just look it up. Sorry, I don't have the exact link here. But if you look it up, it's super easy to find. We have a new request for one of our vendors, Cinnabon. Updated display case, menu boards, or digital menu boards. It actually looks really amazing. I went over and saw, it took some photos. It looked really sweet. So it's good to check out if you're traveling through the airport anytime soon. The other couple of reminders when you're coming to the airport or around the airport, wildlife, we've gotten a lot of snow the last month, and so there's a lot of snow on the ground. It's pushing a lot of the animals out of the tree line. So just be cautious when you're, walking around the airport or, just on airport property, walking around. We're also encouraging people to stay off of Lake Hood. It's an active airfield, and it's always closed to pedestrian traffic year round. And so please try not to wander on to Lake Hood. It's unstable right now as temperatures are coming above freezing, and we don't want anybody falling through or unsafe incidents to occur. The other thing is snow and parking. We've gotten a lot of snow, so please be careful when you're parking around the airport and your different parking lots. We don't want you to slip and fall. Please be just mindful, careful. And we have some flights picking up, and so just make sure you're checking your status of your flight before you come to the airport. But also use alternate parking for short-term and long-term parking lots. Often reach capacity, so we're really encouraging people to please park in other parking lots, including our North Terminal lot, our Park Ride and Fly lot, and some private parking options like Diamond Airport parking, Alaska Airport parking. keep in mind, like the last couple weeks, we've had a couple of days where airport parking did reach capacity. So it does happen. We're not just saying that for fun, like just be mindful. We don't want you guys circling. We also don't want you to miss your flight. So just, keep that in mind. It's always safer to just park in the North Terminal. You'll know you'll get a spot and get on your plane. But just be mindful about that. The other thing is if you're looking for a career change, local71.com/jobs have some job openings that you can look at for the airport. Or if you want to receive these updates, you can go to GovDelivery. And yeah, sign up to receive any updates from the airport. Other than that, Jennifer Pepin, who does engineering, environmental, she's amazing. She knows it all, actually.
No, I don't know that, but I'll take a big kid. Oh, hi.
Yeah, between.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jennifer Pepin. I am the manager of engineering environmental E&C. And I'm just here to talk about one specific project that we have coming up in the next year. At the next meeting, we'll give an overall construction update, and it's a pretty robust year this year coming up for this summer. But next winter, we are going to be removing our boundary fence at Lakewood, and it's between the Turingan Community Council's homeowners and our Lakewood. It's been 20, 30 years of a fence. It's in disrepair, and it's not necessarily needed for us. But so we're working really hard with Turingan to let the homeowners know, give them enough notice to provide. Maybe they need to put in a fence themselves. That this summer, that kind of stuff. And so I didn't know what I was coming to, so I only have a few copies of this, but leave one if you want. But I'll walk around, I guess. The red fence, this one that's more square, that's the fence that's being removed. So it's right on the boundary of the homeowners. We're in the process of doing a survey to make sure that it is completely on our property. That's what our as-built show, but we also know things don't necessarily install the way they think it should. So as we're moving forward and talking with the homeowners and all, we just wanted you to be aware that this is something that will be happening at Lakewood. I know a lot of people like cheer on that, trying to be aware of what we're doing with these spaces. So that's just what I wanted to let everybody know tonight. And then again, we'll come back at your next meeting and give a more big construction update for our next season. Is there any questions? Yes, ma'am.
I actually have a question about the noise study.
Okay.
And I'm just curious, the airport has done noise studies before, but it doesn't really seem, I'm just curious what the purpose is, because there's questions asked of the community. We give feedback, but it doesn't really seem to make a difference with the actual noise or the amount of cargo jets has really increased, and they're carrying heavier loads. So, I mean, I live by Lakewood and it's very loud. And, so I'm just curious what the purpose of the study is, if there's actually going to be some implementation of what the community wants, or if it's, just going to be like, we studied it and we got information and we're not doing anything with it.
Is there why?
Yeah, so from my interpretation, there's a certain amount of decibels. So it's either like 70 or 75 decibels. And so they're monitoring if, the aircraft noise reaches a certain level. And if it does, when it creates this noise exposure map, I think that's when the airport is supposed to make accommodations for the surrounding area. But it's only if it reaches a certain level where it could cause issues, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it looks
So,
like
just clarify.
well, so this is something that FAA requires us to do.
I just wanted to clarify what was the answer.
Well, go ahead and let her. She might have an answer to your question.
Yeah.
So this is an FAA required study that the airport does. I think we're supposed to do it every 10 years. And it's a noise contouring study to look at the decibels of the planes and stuff like that. And then possibly come up with additional mitigation, but not necessarily in the way that residents might expect, right? So like one of our mitigations is that we really try to take off over the water, right? We try to land over the water unless we have certain conditions, specifically with winds or runway closures, where that's just not feasible. So that's one of our major mitigations on how to deal with the noise.
So I guess my clarification question is, so it sounds like that there would be mitigation for the noise, but not really input from the community about curtailing the noise. You know what I mean? Like the airport continues to expand and the community doesn't seem to really have a voice in that. And that's why I'm trying to like determine, that aspect.
It's our responsibility as a sponsor with FAA to grow the airport and continue to make it self-sustaining. That is something that is required of us by FAA when we take their money, right? And so in doing so, that is something we're supposed to do, is to grow the airport, make sure that we continue to be self-sustaining, support our growth and our maintenance and in those ways.
Okay, so I'm going to be alone after the meeting, but I could maybe chat with you.
I am not. I actually have
Yeah.
a family.
The other thing to keep in mind is the reason we we're doing the purpose noise study, and the reason why we're holding the Earth Study advisory meetings is we want as much impact from the community as we can get, and that's why we come and present at all of the community council meetings. I mean, I try to come every month. And just keep people informed of what's going on. And so those are really the meetings that we encourage everyone to go to voice your opinions, because
Our meetings?
These are the noise part of the
Meetings where you gather customer or people feedback.
Okay, so actually, we're 20 minutes behind. I can take people's information and get it to them if you have additional questions. And Bob is our representative on this study. And some of it might be outside the scope of the study they're studying, as opposed to like taking feedback.
Another meeting to go to.
Oh, did we talk about this? Yeah.
Following on 19 the next year. And there's a meeting during the day and a meeting at night. And if you can't attend those, there is a way to make comments on the website.
Yeah, and so keep in mind, like I do, Jennifer does engineering at the airport, and so we're not the experts on this, but we're just here to give you information. And so this is the best possible way for you to go, and they'll answer all of the questions you have much better than we probably could. And we'll have all the information to give you, and that's where we encourage you. Give the feedback, tell them what you want. It's the best. I mean, this is the time to do it. The study's going on. Yeah.
Thank you. Did you have a quick question? You sure? Okay. Take your contact information too, make sure they get it. Okay, next up. Ballots. It's election time. It's time for me to step aside. So do you have a few minutes? A reminder, you are eligible to vote if you have attended a community council meeting in the past year and are a resident or business representative in Spenard. Did I catch all the things?
Yeah.
Yes, that. So if you're not sure, Margaret has sign-in sheets and can double check to see if you're eligible to vote. And she also has ballots if you didn't grab one. If anybody needs, oh, she didn't hand them out.
No.
Okay, so you're eligible to vote. Raise your hands and down my hand on the ballot. Fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah. So you know what?
While I hand them out, so we can multitask. If you would like to introduce yourselves, if you're on the ballot, Matt, go first and tell us what you'd like to do as president and who you are, and in approximately 30 seconds.
I'm Matt Duncan. I was the vice president for 3 years. I took last year this current year that we're in off because I was supposed to go do something with the military, which I didn't go do. What I've learned by coming to these meetings is that you are the community council, and while we do pass resolutions by majority rule, it's the job of the executive board to preserve the dignity and the voice of the minority and to facilitate a good conversation with the council so that we can get things done. And I've got a lot of ideas for the new year, but mostly it's going to be to accomplish a few things. And if I'm elected, we will decide which items of a long list of possible things that we're actually going to do over the course of the next year together. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Margaret, you're running for president. President. Jed.
I'm Jed, and I'm your secretary, and if elected, there will be meeting minutes in everyone's inbox. I've served on the executive board for the last year as vice president, and I am a past president of the council. It's really nice to work with the team. So appreciate this term.
All right, thank you, Jed. Sean.
I'm Shauna. I was told there'd be no speeches.
So be the only one.
Yeah, I've really super enjoyed coming here over the last probably 2 years or whatever, and Julie has guilted me into doing this, and I am really excited actually. So yeah, hopefully I'll be getting on that cruise. Yeah, thank you.
And then fire was on you.
I have a personal way that I have to this one. And we have to turn fire. And so. One more.
Jason.
Around the ballot, buddy.
Okay, awesome.
Sorry. LESSAR.
Spell it right. Because those online can go by email at spenardcc@gmail.com. Is there anybody who would like to run for an officer position? Those are all the offices we have that are currently on the ballot. So you'll be making it a competitive race. And that's allowed. Encouraged even. Are there any questions? I can come collect the ballots. And we do them on paper because our bylaws say that they're secret on paper.
That's the ballot report is on.
And I will check the email. And while we count the ballots, we're going to hear from Steven Stone.
Hey, that's good.
From public transit. Did you know you can also take the bus to the airport and street alone?
Thanks, supposed to say that I don't have to park at the airport. Go take the bus. I have. Me too. So I have more papers to pass out that I didn't put on the table. I'm here just to talk about transit on the move and the update from when I was here in the summer, talking about what the community needs from the public transportation department in the next few years to guide us, to help us with our plan, our guiding document that dictates what we do for public services in transit, whether that's People Mover, that's Anchor Rides, or our ride share program. It doesn't work. It's all right. It's on the road. Don't worry about it. So the paper that's being passed around is the results from the survey that we did all summer. We were at 75 events, including this community council, giving presentations, talking to people at
fairs and festivals and activities throughout the entire summer from April through September. That one survey was asking people what you value in public transit services. So if you didn't take that, the question was, based on the guiding principles of our current document that was put out in 2020, accessibility, convenience, and reliability are three core principles for public transit. So we wanted to make sure, is that what we're moving forward with? Do they need to change? There was another category. So the backside of the paper with a bunch of graphs, you can kind of see what people chose out of the 1,541 respondents of that survey through that public involvement period. You might have heard radio and TV ads. You might have gotten a postcard in your mailbox. Hopefully you all did, even if you didn't take the survey from that. We're going to do the same thing for this round, but the results are on that page. There's a QR code and the website is still the same to take our new survey. So we got all of those comments and feedback from the 75 events, from the survey respondents, from everybody who participated in that over last summer, and we turned that into project ideas. So the website has a complete list now, and the survey has a compiled list of all of the projects that the ideas turned into, whether it's a new route, whether it's fare structure strategies for free fares for veterans, for seniors, for folks with disabilities, for whatever it is. There's a big list of projects that we are now presenting to you again with a new survey, because we love surveys, to basically say, pick 5 and then rank them. The whole community does this over the next couple of months, and we will have a prioritized list of projects to work on for People Mover, for Anchor Rides, and for our rideshare program. Those are the 3 entities of the Public Transportation Department. So I'm just here to kind of let you know that we're no longer in that phase. We've compiled all the data and the results. We've formulated all the plans that people said from comments around that entire summer of last year. And so the projects listed are on the website in the survey. There's maps and descriptions and links to various things. So I would recommend doing it on a computer if you're able to do that, because computer screens are bigger and you can zoom in on things. It does work from a phone. I have to squint when I try to test it out. It's challenging, but you can do it however you need to. So this round of public involvement started on Monday, and we'll go through April 19th. You're the first community council to get this spiel. Thanks to Sarah for squeezing me in. She gets to listen to this next week at the Public Transportation Advisory Board meeting that she's also in, so she gets to hear it again. Lindsay heard it on Monday for the Bike Pedestrian Advisory Group for AMATS. So anyways, I can take questions, or I can, let me really show you, it's on the paper. It's just kind of some fun pictures and graphs and lines on maps for bus routes or ideas or different things that, again, community-based. What we want to do with this updated document is have a new set of priorities, whether that's new routes or new services. Some kind of go through the Spenard area. Some are east, some are west, some are south, some are north of Chinook Eagle River. So our urbanized zone that we are allowed to operate bus service in is where those new route ideas or project ideas are defined, and then there's more information on the website. transitonthemove.com. We try and make it easy, but it's a Muni website, so if you have to hit reload or refresh to get in there, I have to from my work computer, so I don't know why it doesn't work sometimes, but transitonthemove.com is where you can get a lot more project information. Does anyone have any questions? Sorry, I was kind of word vomited. Yes.
People's alternate energy source, like electrical company. What's the fuel on those?
All of our buses for People Mover are diesel, and half of our fleet, a little over half of our fleet, are what the manufacturer calls clean diesel.
Like how you plan.
There's new technology in diesel motors to burn it more efficiently, so the exhaust is less destructive, but it's still diesel exhaust.
Any plans to move forward in the world of not diesel?
Yes, the administration actually has put a request for a project to look into alternative fuels. So we're going to do a study this year to see what is out there, what can work in a cold climate. We did pilot an all-electric, battery electric bus in 2018. So we had to install a diesel generator to use a heat pump because we did it in February knowing it was going to be cold. And it wouldn't make sense to add another component just to be able to keep the passengers and driver warm. So that was 8 years ago technology. Battery electric buses have come a long way, but yeah, we're going to do a fuel study to see what is suitable for our environment.
Who's the administration?
Our mayor, our current mayor. No, I'm sorry. Me, Mayor of France. Any other questions or comments or fun things about buses? I could talk to you about buses all night.
If you haven't ridden a bus in Anchorage, you really should. They're big, they're clean. Your car probably costs $80,000. These are $600,000.
And we go for 500,000 miles.
Yeah, texting and driving is really dangerous. You should get up driving.
Texting and riding is okay though. That's what guys.
You can watch a movie.
Are there any additional questions?
Yes.
And from see a little bit hard to answer sure. So 5 people is can they consider getting some of these smaller ones?
The concept behind smaller buses is that you have to trade them out when they're busy. We don't know when they're going to be busy. We have data. We know when our ridership peaks throughout the day, but in order to try and adapt vehicle size by when riders are expected to be is not a thing that's really accepted in the transit industry because you want to provide a service that anybody can get on at any time. So to an extent, the bigger the vehicle that's constantly running and not changing out between a smaller one and a larger one, the more efficient that vehicle runs. And also your training, your staffing levels don't have to change between a non-CDL smaller vehicle and a commercial driver's license bigger vehicle for hiring and logistics. It is most efficient and most common to just run that same vehicle. Parts and maintenance also come into it. So yes, we do know that our ridership peaks from 11 a.m. to about 5 p.m. That's our bell. We're not a commuter city. We don't have massive AM peaks and PM peaks like New York or Chicago or San Francisco because we don't have in our bus network, we don't have a massive commuter ridership. People go to work in the morning, but they also go to work at 11 or 12 for service industries for other things.
We took a survey on base 3 months ago that said, do we want to have bus service on base? Is that something that you guys are working?
That is a project listed on the survey and on the website. There's 2 alternatives for a route to get on J-Bear from downtown transit center and then to wherever it needs to go. We had a conversation many months ago with people on base with the state about getting any type of transit on to base. So yes, it's something we're working towards, but it's going to be identified and prioritized in this survey. Unless the federal government says we're also going to chip in and pay for it and build the bus stops and the other stuff that we would have to do as well because it's federal. But there are many bases around the country that have agencies on private federal land as well. So yes, it does happen. It's something that can be voted on.
All right.
Thanks. If there are any papers, I'll take them to the next meeting house tomorrow.
And if you don't want to keep yours as a souvenir or for notes, you can use them. Okay, next up we have Jed. I'm going to stop sharing and bring in Jed's slides. But you can say next slide.
Thanks everyone, and what a great segue. The last time I drove to the airport, I always take the bus to the airport. The last time I drove wasn't the last time ever, because when we landed, it was like 0 degrees and it snowed about 8 inches. The car was completely covered, and then by the time we got home, we couldn't even park in the driveway because the driveway was so it's like, why didn't we just take the bus? So thank you. I'm here tonight just to introduce this resolution in support of winter city transportation maintenance. If it wasn't obvious earlier from my question with Lieutenant Fuchs, I'm a frequent pedestrian. I'm out on our sidewalks in our neighborhood every single day. And so I see a lot of things going on. And I put just a quick little slideshow together of some of the maintenance challenges that I see in our neighborhood that I thought I would run through. The first thing I want to tell you, though, is that according to the DOT sidewalk maintenance, winter maintenance plan, the priority 1 level sidewalks in our neighborhoods are going to be plowed within 48 hours. And actually, I did a kind of an informal survey of my own, and this last week, when we had a big snow event, I think on Tuesday of last week, by Thursday, a lot of the sidewalks were cleared. So it kind of checks out. But I want to talk about a little bit of the problem, too. Additionally, I wanted to bring this up. Snow removal from driveways, mailboxes is the responsibility of the homeowner. Snow from driveways cannot be shoveled or plowed onto the right-of-way or onto sidewalks. This is a violation of Muni code. So what I'm getting at is that this is the responsibility of both the state DOT maintenance, city street maintenance, and all of us. It's all of our responsibility there. But just a couple of pictures. This is along Tudor Road, Minnesota. This was within 48 hours after the snow event. This is between Arctic and Minnesota on Tudor Road last week. Here's another shot on Northern Lights between Arctic and Spenard. And as you may or may not know, Arctic and Benson are frequent public transportation routes. Buses run, I think, about every 15 minutes along those. And really, buses are dependent on pedestrian traffic. You have to be able to walk to the bus stop. Those bus stops need to be accessible. But here's where things kind of take a turn. This is a pedestrian route. This is not along a road per se. This is a pedestrian route that is at the kind of corner of like Minnesota and International Airport. If you're all familiar with that kind of pedestrian area. This is a result of DOT plowing snow over their environment and landing the plowed pedestrian route. These are like 40-pound ice chunks. I'm really glad I wasn't standing under there when the plow went. Here is an example. This is just right there at the corner of Tudor and Minnesota. And this is inaccessible. You can see the pedestrians, we call them beg buttons, the signal. You can't even walk. You have to climb up a 4-foot berm to hit the signal in order to be able to cross at the crosswalk. And for those of you who know that know, just to the left of that photo, there is actually a paved pedestrian pathway that goes up the west side of Minnesota. I have not seen it plowed one time this winter. Here's another shot along Tudor Road, and this starts to get more to the point of one of the problems, and that is, yes, DOT does come through and they plow the sidewalk within 48 hours of a snow event. But then part of the problem is they'll come back and they'll plow the road again, except they'll plow the snow from the road onto the sidewalk that has already been plowed. Here's another example of just, snow from the road getting plowed directly onto the sidewalk. And this shot, actually, I took on my way to our meeting here tonight. And I love this because there's a pedestrian sign indicating that you're supposed to walk here. This berm is literally 6 feet high. There is nowhere to walk. You are in the road, a very narrow part of West Tudor Road. So, what this resolution does is really just encourages kind of the efficient use of winter maintenance resources. What we don't want to see is snow plowed from the roads onto plowed sidewalks because that just requires kind of redundant services and adds to our maintenance costs. So what I'm asking you all tonight is your support for this resolution. We want to send it to all of our policymakers at the community level and at the state level. And I think right now is an important time to send it to our legislators because they are reviewing the Department of Transportation's budget, which has come up in conversation in some of the hearings that I've listened to. Pedestrian maintenance is a core function of the DOT. And if they don't have the resources to provide that core service, they need to be asking for it. And I think this just adds, our voice to say, hey, this is an important service to us all. Questions, please.
I want to say thank you because I do a lot of walking. But on top of that, there was something maybe that I don't know if you thought about it. So, Western Jack Community Council, there was a lady who was former firefighter or part of the group. And she was bringing up the fact that fire hydrants, the amount of clearance is not being done half the time. And then if you're plowing over the thing, then you can't get access from the agency to do it. And also, if the area of the road, the arterials are not wide enough, you can't get, ambulance and EMTs through. So maybe some also to consider. But yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Jen, I'm really glad you did this. Thank you so much. And the irony is that Bob and I walked on Northwood here, which is the access for two schools, the Montessori and Northwood Elementary. And that was a very nice path a couple days ago. And what they did is they came by with the snowplows and they, for some weird reason, they carved up like they were taking the snow out, but they dumped it onto the sidewalk. And this is the main way for kids to get to school. So I'm glad you're doing this because it's obviously just everywhere. Thank you.
Is that Representative Brawley brought up the website, the community website, right? Is there a place there that talks about sidewalks when they're cleared, or is there a place to write comments or requests such as you're wanting?
No, it's just,
Yeah.
It also shows who owns them because they're municipal sidewalks and sidewalks that the DOT is responsible for.
Oh,
They're-
so is that part of the solution that we're talking about right now? Is that?
I mean, I think what I want to do is just send our voice to our elected officials. We have 6 assembly members that represent Spenard. So, like Anna said, we have half the assembly, and that's huge. And I think we have 4 house districts, 2 house. 4 house districts. So, I mean, at least 8. I mean, there's
2 billion.
2 senators, 4 house districts, and 2 senators. So, just really kind of putting everyone on blast, saying, "Hey, this is important to us." Yes, there are places you can go to specifically request, maintenance on a specific sidewalk, whether it's the muni or state. Most people, I would say, by and large, don't really drill down to figure out, is this a state road or is it a muni road? They just think, oh, the roads aren't being plowed. Let's just scream at, whoever's in charge. And I get that. I mean, it's a similar thing, like, we all wait for 3 hours at the DMV, government sucks. But I think that
Man, and our community is not that.
it's got better because of that. And I think that our winter maintenance will get better the more that we, sort of get our voice out on things like this.
I think it's also important to bring up that it's not just pedestrians who are able-bodied, it's ADA and ADA. I personally have seen several people who are wheelchair bound on motorized, like I know it's outside of our neighborhood, but on Old Seward in Tudor. like driving in the street, and that is so dangerous. And then I personally had to drive with my hazards behind someone walking on Tudor between Minnesota and Arctic the same way to make sure that no one would hit them because it was in the middle of the night and I just got off of work and I just wanted to make sure that they would not get hit. So, I mean, definitely something to bring up in comments is ADA and ADA.
Yeah, thank you. And I mean, these are just to go back to this map. So on this, this is Spenard. Right down here is International and Minnesota. Up here, there's Spenard in Minnesota. And then up here is Northern Lights and Benson. All this green stuff is priority one for DOT. But earlier in January, before it snowed, the path along Benson hadn't been plowed at all. I mean, I was talking to business owners along Northern Lights who had been, taking a snowplow out there and plowing because DOT was plowing the snow from the roads onto the sidewalk. He plowed it with a snowplow in front of the bicycle shop like 4 times during the month of January. And it's like, it's great that he's doing that, but we can't expect every single business owner to be out there doing DOT's job for them. So it's able-bodied people. It is people who have accessibility issues. It's even motorists. I mean, look at some of the ice ridges in some of these roads that just aren't being properly maintained. So I think this just elevates the issue. I'm reluctant to get super specific, but thank you for that note. If anyone wants to amend this to include ADA accessibility, I'm certainly open to that. But that's all I've got. Thank you for your support on this. Encourage a yes vote.
Yeah, I don't know if you need a motion to approve. I'd like to throw that out there. And that very quickly would like friendly amendment, something good. Is there the ability to put an appendix on this that has some of your photos? I think they really paint a picture that you can't get by just reading with text.
Yeah, sure. We can put that. Yeah, it's a PDF like we can attach to it for sure.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Matt seconds. Is there further discussion? All right. Is there any? Yeah, we'll call for hands. All those in favor of approving resolution 2026-01 as amended to include photos, raise your hands. All those opposed? 22-0, resolution passes. I will take that up to the appropriate parties. Thank you, Jed, for writing that up and for those photos. Are you all ready for the election results?
Once again, that it's hot.
All of my additional comments there that I will make sure appropriate parties get. Okay, your next president with 21 votes is Matt Duncan. President with 21 votes is Margaret McDonough. With 21 votes, it's Nichols. Next secretary, also with 21 votes, Jed Smith. With 21 votes, Irene Crucy. And your next auditor with 17 votes, because some of them were circled. 17 votes is Jason. Thank you everybody for volunteering. This is a really fun gig. I will stick around for the transition as in our bylaws. And we're to the end of our agenda. So we can just adjourn if there are no objections.
There's an objection.
Oh, there's an objection. Yes, ma'am.
I would like to present a very big thank you to Ladera.
Thank you. This has been extraordinary and fun. Oh, I will frame it. It will go in my office with my fun gold gavel. Now we're adjourned. It is 8:49. Everyone grab a chair. That would be most helpful. Thank you so much for coming. We'll see you first Wednesday in March. Here. Thank you, everybody online.